Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, September 3rd, and I'm back. I'm back for my little vacation. And we got NFL coming up, the opening day on Sunday. We'll have all the NFL stuff for you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Mondays with the review as well. So don't worry about that. So click on that subscription button. Hit the like button first thing in the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. We got Grinders live later today, 5 p.m. Eastern. They'll be taking a more detailed look at tonight's MLB slate, which we'll be looking at early this morning right now. And then Crunch Time follows that with all the weather updates, which I don't think there are any, right? No, not really, no. Okay, I think Roth has a very easy day today, but join with me is Tim Buell for September baseball. And once October comes around on Tuesdays, we'll be covering NHL DFS. But we got a 10-game slate with Tim. I believe I've said this before. I believe this one team has the lowest implied team total that I've ever seen. Earlier in the season, I've seen like 2.6, maybe a 2.5. Colorado has a 2.35 implied run total against Atlanta today. Chris Sale, 10.8K, has a strikeout prop of 8.5, and maybe one of, if not the highest mean projections for a pitcher I've ever seen on the bat at 27.37, a full 7 points clear of the next pitcher. Can you make the case outside of absurd ownership that we shouldn't be playing Chris Sale against Colorado today?
Yeah, I really can't. I mean, he's so over the top, better than any other pitcher on the slate. It kind of reminds me of like when we had prime, Scherzer or prime DeGrom or prime Verlander, but like back in those days when they would have like high 20s, low 30s raw projections. Like we don't see those kinds of projections anymore. So I mean, it's like so hard to fade him in any format. I ran Sims before the show just to see what that would spit out, and like tons of Sale everywhere. So it's definitely a really, really scary fade. One that I really can't endorse, even in large field tournaments. If anything, if I was like playing a 20 max or 150 max, I would just hit the lock button. I wouldn't worry about trying to like get a little bit overweight or whatever. I would just lock button him.
The thing that you mentioned about, prime Scherzer, prime DeGrom, these guys where they regularly project for 25 to 30. These are when these guys were priced at like 12.5 and 13K, right?
That's a good point.
So Chris Sale, right? Chris Sale, I mean, I sort by point per dollar in the bat. He's the most expensive pitcher, but he's also the best value from a point per dollar perspective also, even at 10.8. Obviously, any pitcher could get into trouble, right? When Chris Sale is not prone to, perfect all the time. I mean, he only had 4 strikeouts against the Nationals. He had 6 against the Twins. He gives up a bunch of hits, but I mean, as far as ceiling is concerned, especially against this Colorado lineup away from Colorado, he's 7 points clear of the next pitcher. Paul Skeens comes in at 9,800, 1,000 less. He projects for 20, right? 9,800 on any other slate. If you take Chris Sale out, Paul Skeens would be the one that's 50+% owned. There's enough value on the slate. Obviously, it's September, so we get some cheap bats and stacks and one-offs and stuff like that. You can play a Sale Skeens lineup, but that will be overwhelmingly chalky. I think there's some. I think I'm much more likely to be diversified in stacks than pitchers today. But is your from your opinion stated before, 7 points in mean projection in the bat is a lot. I mean, I'm assuming that's the reason why, like, SimLabs, like, is spitting out a ton of Sale, because it's like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously there's a percent chance that Skeens beats Sale's score, but a 7-point meaning, I mean, anytime you don't play Sale in the lineup, even though that he's 1,000 more expensive than Skeens, you're giving up like 7 point, like at least 6 points in projection, because obviously you're going to use the 1,000 somewhere else. Do you see a world where, like, I'm playing 1 to 3 lineups, like, I'm much more likely to just play Sale than just play Skeens, and in fact, I almost prefer to get kind of different in the second pitching spot than in the first. Like, I'm not nothing against Paul Skeens. The Pirates have a good matchup against Chicago, but I'm gonna, for the $1,000 difference, I don't care that Sale is gonna be 60% owned or something. It's quite possible Sale should be more owned than that.
Right.
And Skeens, another issue with him is that maybe he doesn't even pitch 90 pitches.
Yeah, I mean, he's only projected for, I think, like 84 to 85. They said he was going to be an unspecified innings limit. We've already seen his pitch count come way down. The Pirates are now officially out of the wild card race, so there's really no reason to push him. I think Skeens is the biggest story of the slate, and what to do with him is really the hardest decision, because obviously his K rate is, spectacular. He's an amazing pitcher in a really, really solid matchup. But if he threw 75 pitches today, even if he was pitching well, that wouldn't shock me. If they just pulled him at 75, like gave him like, five innings, he gets like, he's got a K prop of 6.5. Like maybe he goes 5 innings, gets 5 Ks, and at his price, at his ownership, that might not be enough. His ceiling is starting to get capped because he's becoming, a more limited pitcher now that it's later on in the season. So I think if you're gonna fade one of these two pitchers, it's definitely Paul Skeens. Like there are other pitchers that we can get to. I mean, Skeens is projected for 20, but as you can see, if you look up on RG projections or BAT projections, I mean, there's obviously we'll talk about Castillo. But there are other pitchers that are like within 5 points of him that are going to go way lower owned. So I think Skeens is somebody that I'd probably be underweight on it at 9.8K.
Well, Skeens doesn't even have the second highest strikeout prop on the slate. He actually has the 4th highest strikeout prop, by just a hair. Just a hair. The two pitchers that have a higher strikeout prop than Skeens, which are all at 6.5. Just it depends on what the price is.
Yeah.
One is Luis Castillo, as you mentioned, 9K at Oakland, and another one is Carlos Rodon, 8,500 against Texas. Obviously, both these pitchers are a little less trustworthy. Castillo has the better matchup in the better pitchers ballpark. Rodon probably has a good strikeout matchup, but Texas does have power. It is hot in Texas. So to the weather conditions, Texas has a higher implied team total at 4.26 compared to Oakland, who 3.41. So I think like Castillo is probably, quote, safer, but at less ownership than like Skeens. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind Castillo, but I think Carlos Rodon, if people are not going to play him as nearly as often as some of these other pitchers, I don't mind taking a shot on Rodon at like 10, 15% ownership compared to, Castillo, who could be 20, 25, Skeens, who could be 30, 35. I think Rodon has as much upside as any of these pitchers. The question is that when he doesn't have upside, he has a lot of downside.
Yeah, I mean, Castillo is going to be higher on than Skeens. Like right now, we have Castillo as the highest projected owned pitcher of the slate at 44%. I think Sale will come in a little bit higher than him, but it's definitely going to be Sale and Castillo as your chalk pairing, but Skeens is still going to be highly owned. Rodon, I have absolutely no problem with in GPPs. He's going to be like around 10%, if that. So I mean, I think even like Tanner Bybee, he's going to be around 10% also. I don't really mind him in GPPs either. So there are definitely places that you can pivot off of guys like Paul Skeens if you elect to. But like if you're playing cash games today, it's 100% Sale and Castillo. Castillo has a really solid leash. He's almost projected for the same amount of raw points as Skeens. He's $800 less. So Castillo and Sale is going to be the chop pairing. But there are definitely some viable GPP pivots that we can take as well.
How about someone like David Peterson at 8K? I'm never a big fan of picking on the Red Sox, but they are in Citi Field, so they're getting a ballpark downgrade. And the Red Sox really aren't the same team against lefties as they are against righties. Right. I don't think Peterson is the most trustworthy of pitchers, but I mean, he's racked up a good amount. I mean, he can pitch long. I mean, like he's pitched 7 innings in 3 straight games. Now, obviously, he has to be concerned about walks. He has to be concerned about giving up home runs. But I mean, do I think he's going to have 8 strikeouts like he did against the Orioles? Maybe not. But at 8K, he could have a nice 5-6 strikeout, 7-inning start and give you 25 points on DraftKings. And I think Peterson will be even lower owned than Rodon. At the end of the day, I don't think I'm playing like Rodon Peterson or Castillo Rodon type line. I'd like Sale is going in my lineup. Yeah. It just depends on like what's going to be in the other lineups. And having 3, if I play 3 lineups, I'm not even sure I am. I may just play 1. Like I'm looking at Sale plus Peterson, Sale plus Rodon, Sale plus Castillo with maybe not as chalky of a stack. I don't mind Tanner Bybee, but he wouldn't make my top 3. Do you think Peterson? I mean, I would between Castillo, Rodon, and Peterson and Bybee, I'd probably put Peterson probably 4th, but probably closer to Bybee. I prefer Castillo and Rodon way more. Mm-hmm. But are you considering guys like Peterson or even like Ryan Nelson at 7,200? Because now we're getting cheaper down the salary scale. Like to me, Peterson at 8K is like the lowest I'll go unless I'm going really, really, really low, which I don't think I'm doing today anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go low, like really, really low, you got to go Aaron Savali at 6,300 against the Cardinals. He has, I mean, he's been extremely inconsistent. He's coming off a huge performance against the Giants, but he could definitely get you 20 DK points like pretty easily. So if you're gonna go low, I would go Savali. I don't want to get to any Ryan Nelson. I really don't want to get to anyone below Savali. I have absolutely no interest in. I think, I mean, it's such a kind of a weird case, but like it's such good pitching weather in Wrigley. Like Kyle Hendricks is actually projecting halfway decent, even though he's absolutely atrocious. I would still side with Savali though, just because Hendricks just makes me so nervous, even though it's good pitching weather at Wrigley Field. But yeah, I wouldn't go with anyone lower than Savali.
Talking about Kyle Hendricks, we'll talk about him in the stack section. Which we can get to now. So we got 20 teams on the slate. Obviously, we have our tiers here: A, B, C, D, and F. We're gonna put them in tiers by stacks, 5-man stacks on DraftKings. Right? You can always play a one-off from any team, so we're not judging them, just purely. We're just judging them purely by 5 people in a lineup, and it's ownership adjusted, which means the more owned they are, they'll come down in the order. The lower owned they are, the more they'll move up. So top stack on the slate. The bad stacks page is actually down, but we do have our own here at RotoGrinders opto percentage tool for stacks. And you can get that if you're a RotoGrinders premium member. And obviously, that coming into the fall, there's no better time to be a Combo Premium member here at RotoGrinders because we got college football going on. We got NFL going on. We got baseball going on. Start of October, got NHL. We always got PGA. We got MMA. NBA will be back in mid-October. So to just get all the sports just for one low price. So click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month of a RotoGrinders Combo Premium package. Top stack on the slate. I would say the top groupings of stacks. We got some good hitting teams as far as projection is concerned. We got the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Braves. When are we putting those teams in the stacks, the tiers?
I mean, 100% the Dodgers are going in the A stack. I don't think that's really much of an argument there. By far, I think the best overall option on the slate. They're expensive, but they're worth it. Certainly a team that you need to pitch Savali to get exposure to, but it could very well be worth it going against Reed Detmers. So Dodgers are by far the top stack. The Yankees, they're kind of tricky. Like, Andrew Heaney can have, solid performances. He can also get completely lit up, and it is the Yankees. I'm not as I don't like them as much as the Dodgers, but I think they still would belong in the A, but it's more like an AB. They're like the 1A stack.
Yeah, I feel like the Yankees, like against Heaney, a lefty like that, a fly ball lefty. Like I like Judge, I like Torres. Like I like one-offs or a 3-man, but less so like just a full 5-man stack. Yeah. Especially at the prices that there are. So I'm kind of with you. And I think the Phillies against Bassett, I almost like even less as a 5-man stack. Like, I don't mind Kyle Schwarber, lefty one-offs against Bassett, but I'm not really looking. If I'm going to stack a team as expensive as the Phillies, I'll probably just take the Dodgers at that point and play like Chris Taylor in my lineup as like the 5th guy, just to, Enrique Hernan, one of the low guys. Obviously, Tommy Edman is probably too cheap at 3,400, so you're probably including him. So I just feel like if I'm going to stack an expensive team, it's going to number one be the Dodgers, then the Yankees, then the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, really, the Phillies for me would just be like a one-off of Schwarber or a one-off of Harper, depending on what I needed on my lineup. You always want to attack Bassett with lefties, and those are the 2 best on that team. But Phillies as a stack don't really interest me that much.
But I think another A stack is, I think they're going to go lower on than they should on this slate. I think the Braves are an A-tier stack against Kyle Freeland in Atlanta. According to our Opto percentage tool, they're number 2 on the entire list. And they're not going to, they're going to be owned, but they may only be the 4th highest owned team on the slate. So I don't mind playing Atlanta, and they're not as expensive as the Dodgers or the Yankees. And I don't mind attacking Kyle Freeland.
I don't mind attacking Kyle Freeland at all. And you can get some of these Atlanta players at relatively cheap prices. So I really don't mind Atlanta as like a 5-man stack. I think Marcell Ozuna is one of the best plays on the entire slate. I meant to look up his home run odds before the show. I'm sure they're not really great to bet on, but I was hoping to get lucky and maybe find a decent line, but probably not. But he's one of my favorite overall hitters on this entire slate.
Okay, now we have the next tier of teams. We got Cleveland against Brady Singer, Texas against Carlo Rodon, Milwaukee against Steven Matz, and Seattle against JT Ginn. Where are we putting the Guardians, the Rangers, the Brewers, and the Mariners?
Did you say Rangers? Was that in that group?
Yeah, the Rangers are up there in projection against Rodon. I mean, that's going to be a high variance situation.
I know. It's such a high variance situation because, I feel like in a vacuum, I really wouldn't want the Rangers. I would probably even put them close to the F tier. But I think given that I mean, the projections are telling us a different story. So I think they have to be like more of a C stack. But I mean, realistically, I can't imagine that they're going to be that high owned. So it'd probably be pretty easy to get overweight on the stack. And you don't have to like commit very much of your portfolio to get to overweight on the Rangers.
And then you have, I think the Brewers are the opposite. I think the Brewers may be a little bit overowned today against Steven Matz. So I'm going to put the Brewers also in the C tier. Like they could be B tier without ownership, but maybe a little too high owned against him. And I think Seattle against JT Ginn, I don't think they're going to be nearly as owned as our projections say they're going to be. I mean, I've been on. Seattle is not as bad of a team as they used to be, right? Their lineup has gotten better, so I'm gonna put Seattle in the B tier. So I just don't think how many people are playing Julio Rodriguez today. When we have Ohtani and Judge and Schwarber and Ozuna, I mean, like I just feel like the Mariners go mostly overlooked, and their projection is not all that different from some of these other teams.
Yeah, I can't even find Julio in our projected ownership. Oh, okay, yeah, he's projected for like 5%. So yeah, I mean, I really like that call. I certainly don't mind the Mariners at all. I agree with you about the Brewers. Like, I'm already seeing like really high ownership on these on these really dirt cheap outfielders for the Brewers, like Blake Perkins or Brewer Hicklin. Hicklin's 2K. Perkins is 2.9K. So, I mean, they're going to be Gary Sanchez, 3.5. All these Brewers are going to be, they're going to get steamed pretty heavily, I would imagine, once people realize that they can't, if they're going to spend 10A on sale, they need value pieces. So I think the Brewers are going to get steamed in ownership. So I agree with you. They get knocked down a little bit.
Then where are we putting the Guardians against Singer?
I never really like to full stack the Guardians. I mean, it's always just like a couple of bats that I'll take. Like obviously, Jose Ramirez is always in play in a really good spot against Singer. But really, I almost never play Steven Kwan. I guess Jimenez is okay. Maybe like just like that 3-man of like Jimenez, Ramirez, Naylor. But I don't really love like a full stack of Cleveland. So for me, they're just a 3-man stack. But I think they're in a decent spot. So maybe they'd be a C stack.
Right. They're like they're okay. In my one lineup, I don't think I'm playing the Guardians, but I mean, I don't think they should be D tier. If you want to play the Guardians today, I think that's fine. The next tier here is the Diamondbacks against Harrison, the Cardinals against Savali, and the Red Sox against Peterson. I mean, I know we talked about Savali and Peterson in the pitcher segment. I don't think any of these teams are like B tier worthy at all. But what tiers are we going to put the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, and the Red Sox?
I think I would put the Red Sox either in D or F. I never really want to use them against a lefty. Peterson can have control problems at times, but if he doesn't, he's really not that bad of a pitcher. So I would say they're probably a D tier team for me. The St. Louis against Savali, I actually really don't mind Savali in this matchup. I don't have a lot of faith in this Cardinals team. So it's they don't necessarily strike out a lot, but they also don't do a whole lot of damage. So I think the Cardinals probably a D stack for me. And then the last one was Arizona.
I'm putting them on the C. I think from a projection standpoint, I think you may be right. But I'm under the impression that if people are going to want to play expensive bats like Judge and Ohtani, that maybe Savali ends up actually. Now, is Savali going to be 40% owned? No. But Savali may be way more owned than we expect him to be owned because of those types of stacks. And the leverage may be enough to at least bump Cardinals team from the D tier to the C tier. Maybe it's not a. Maybe I don't play the Cardinals today, but if you're gonna get leverage on like those Sale Castillo lineups, the Sale Savali Dodgers Yankees types lineups. I think playing, if you need cheapness, you play Sale plus Castillo, and then you can play the Cardinals, and you're leveraging against maybe 20% Aaron Savali ownership.
Yeah, if Savali gets steamed, I absolutely agree with you that the Cardinals should get a little bit of an increase on our stacks page.
And the Diamondbacks against Kyle Harrison in San Francisco is just I don't think my D tier tip is typically, I don't think you're crazy for doing it, but I'm not. Like, they're not an F tier team, but I typically don't play. I'm not going to stack against Kyle Harrison. I'm not going to stack against, teams in San Francisco.
Right.
Diamondbacks aren't a bad team. They're fine. They're good. They're there. But, I'm not doing it.
And they get Christian Walker back, which is pretty huge for that team. But yeah, no, I think Arizona's a D stack.
Okay, let's get to the bottom. Now we're getting towards the bottom, right? We have a whole bunch of teams at the bottom. You got the Royals against Bybee, the Blue Jays against Phillips, and the Mets against Cutter Crawford. Where are we putting the Royals, the Blue Jays, and the Mets?
Yeah, outside of Bobby Witt, I really don't have much interest in this Royals team. I really don't even mind pitching Bybee. So I think I got to go Royals in the D section.
I was going to put them in the F section for a 5-man.
Yeah, for a 5-man, yeah. Okay.
Right, because remember, these are 5-man stacks. I mean, people said, oh, we can't play a Royal. Like, no, you can play Bobby Witt as a one-off, but as a 5-man stack, I'm not paying the Royals prices for a matchup against Bybee on this slate, so I'm putting them in the F tier. Feel free to play Bobby Witt as a one-off. That's fine. That's outside the scope of what we do the tiers on. So so I'm putting
losing Vinny P in this lineup is huge for this team. So really, I just it's really just Bobby Witt, and then really that's it.
How about the Blue Jays and the Mets?
I think the Blue Jays are a little bit interesting. I don't really hate their matchup. I don't think they're going to get much ownership at all. So I think I'm going to go C. I think you can 5-man this team.
Okay. I mean, I think I'd rather play the Blue Jays than the Mets as a 5-man.
Yeah.
I don't mind attacking Cutter Crawford, but I mean, typically the Mets at home, in the context of this slate, I feel like the Mets would be like the 10th team I'd want to play today. And that's why they get thrown in that D. Like, you're not crazy, but I'm not doing it.
And it's in Citi Field. The wind's blowing in. Weather Edge hates this game. I mean, I really have no interest in Boston or the Mets. So really, the Red Sox and Mets are like D to F stacks.
Okay, how about the Giants against Ryan Nelson, the Angels against Walker Buehler, or the corpse of what is remaining of Walker Buehler?
That's a tough game for me, actually, because Walker Buehler is terrible, but he ends up having these odd spike games, which would not shock me against this terrible Angels team. But I mean, Walker Buehler is a shell of his former self. Like, he is not the same guy. Something happened to him, and he has not recovered. So this is actually a really tough game for me to handicap. But I mean, I just have no faith in the Angels. So I think the Angels still have to go in the D level. But yeah, I mean, really, this game could go either way.
And then the Giants, we just never play. Just never play.
I just basically never play the Giants at all in single entry.
I think if you never played the Giants the entire season, you'd be up.
Right.
Right. And it's not a matchup. Ryan Nelson isn't awful. It's in San Francisco. The team totals are low. Why am I targeting this game? good luck to you if you're going to try it, and then have half the people get pitch hit for. Let's get to this interesting case before the bottom three teams. Pittsburgh against Kyle Hendricks doesn't project well. Like, they're the fourth lowest projected average stack, right? So average, obviously they're cheap. Their optimal percentage in our current run this early in the morning, they're the fourth most likely to be optimal.
This is another one of these games that's pretty tough to handicap because, it's such bad hitting weather in Wrigley. And, we know that Hendricks has no strikeout ability. So we know balls are going to be being put in play. Can the Pirates actually have enough ceiling for this, their stack to make sense? I'm not sure. Hendricks is just, he's solely dependent on BABIP. And he's had really bad luck this year in terms of BABIP. So I really don't want to rank the Pirates in the B section. I think I'd rather go C or even D. If we're only talking about 5-man stacks, they'd really be C or D for me.
Right. I think it's more of a price play. If you're playing, expensive pitchers and you're playing Judge as a one-off, like that type of thing, I don't mind the Pirates. Will I play the Pirates today? Maybe. They're a maybe for me, right? So they're in the C tier. And then we have the 3 bottom tier teams, as we have Dean's first time actually waking up to check out this show and realizing we've been doing the tiers on this show for 3.5 months already. But whatever. But we don't name them. We don't name them funny names. We don't mislead people. We actually just give them just regular grade letters because we're boring.
I didn't want to tell Dean this is actually way better the way that you do it.
It's not as entertaining though, right?
Well, that would be his argument. I don't agree.
No, I actually would agree with Dean. I'd rather it be much more entertaining than this. But we're trying to help the people, right? Dean says that he runs the People's Show at 5:00 on Grinders Live. This may be the People's Show. This may be the People's Show, or at least a person's show. So the last 3 tiers, the last 3 teams, Oakland against Castillo, the Cubs against Skeens, and the Rockies against Sale.
They're all F.
They're just okay. We're putting them all in F. The Rockies, the Cubs. You can't make it. You're telling me in large field GPPs, if Sale's going to be 60% owned, that you're not like off the rocker for playing the Rockies?
I think you're off the rocker.
Oh, it's that bad. Sale has such a projection, and the Rockies have such a bad projection that even at 60% ownership, that's still not enough leverage to play the Rockies today.
The only team that I would get any exposure to out of these last 3 would be the A's. Guys like Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, perhaps, JJ Bleday, perhaps, Seth Brown, maybe as like one-offs or mini stacks. But for 5-man stacks, these are all F tier plays easily.
The A's don't even get bumped up because of that. Let's say Castillo is 40% owned. You wouldn't want to play the A's?
Right. That's another case. That's another case to bump up the A's to maybe D or C. That's another case for the A's. Absolutely.
Right. These are all bad teams. These are all poorly projected. It's just from
a
DFS perspective, there's a leverage component too, that if Sale gets blown up, no one's playing the Rockies, 60% of lineups are dead, and you win everything. You're 50K richer because you played the Rockies, and then that's all you need. But how often does that happen? And that's really what it comes down to. You don't want to stack against pitchers that are 10% owned. You're not getting as much leverage. But if Castillo is going to be 30, 40% owned, it really comes down to, is the ownership worth enough for you to at least take a shot on the stack? And you say your opinion is that out of these 3 teams, you'd much rather take a shot on the A's than the Cubs or the Rockies.
Absolutely. In fact, if I was building out 150, I'd probably exclude the Rockies, and I may even exclude the Cubs.
Okay. Well, wait until Chris Sale gets blown up at 60% ownership.
We can cut this clip then.
Right. So if you had one lineup, you're playing one lineup single entry, right? And you're more of a single entry player also.
Yeah.
Would you, if you had a choice between playing the Dodgers or Chris Sale? You can't play any Dodger in your lineup if you play Chris Sale. If you play a Dodger, that means you can't, it's one or the other. Which one are you doing? Would you rather play Chris Sale today or the best stack of the slate, the Dodgers?
I would rather play Chris Sale.
I would agree. I would agree. I think that there's no stack worthy. Even if it was a Coors slate and there was a team with the 7 implied run total, in Coors at average price of like 3,800 or something, I still think Chris Sale at 10. Like Chris Sale, technically from his projection, is like $2K underpriced.
Yes.
At pitcher.
Yep.
Okay, Tim. What do you got going on during NFL season to let the folks know?
I'll be on every Sunday morning at 9:30 with Dean and Bobby Gomes for the People's Show. So that's about it, and I'll be on with you every Tuesday for hockey season.
Right. Do you have any written content? Any premium stuff? Any line
I have no
tags? No, nothing.
Nope. I don't have any written content. No.
Yeah, because writing's I hate writing. That's why I don't do any writing. Right. Right. No expert survey. No nothing. But you will when hockey comes around. You're going to be.
Yeah, when hockey comes around, I'll be an expert survey. I'll write up some bets for scores and odds as well. But yeah, so when hockey starts, I will have some written content.
And our NHL channel is the best hockey Discord in the business.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It really is.
You got to join. RotoGrinders.com/Discord. You can join right now for free. Or get a combo premium subscription. Get all the sports with NFL coming back right now. Click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month. Tomorrow, I'll be on for first look at the week 1 main slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. And then Thursday, we'll be taking a look at props, just props and pick 'em, the whole show. And then Friday will be just NFL GPP strategy, primarily for DraftKings, but we will touch on FanDuel as well. So give me the thummy thumbs, right, Dean? Dean still, even though we're using the tiers that we've been using for 3.5 months here, that he just realized. He has given the thummy thumbs. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Grinders live later today, 5 p.m. Eastern, followed by crunch time at 6:15 or so to take a more detailed look at this MLB slate tonight. I'll see you tomorrow as I'm always here, right? Even throughout vacations or whatever. Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.